Welcome, Balaram.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and yeah, I'm grateful to be here with all of you guys for this reason. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, to start us off, why do you love poetry so much? Like, what got you into poetry? Why are we speaking about poetry today?
Yeah, so poetry. If you if you just think about words themselves, words are like a vessel for an idea, and when these words combine with beauty, that's poetry, right? Whether it's songs or lyrics or something like that. So I've always been kind of drawn to them, like even just like nursery rhymes. You can remember. I'm sure people here can just remember nursery rhymes because they've got that rhyme to them, and this is what poetry does to me, and I'm sure it does to a lot of people. It's like when a poet just thoughtfully takes these ideas in these words and then puts rhyme and rhythm to them. They have an impact. So this impact, it's like a profound experience, and this profound experience, it like penetrates our mind and our consciousness sometimes. Like in Sanskrit, this is called a samskar, something that penetrates our consciousness. So like we remember it so kind of easily. And so this is why poetry and yoga, bhakti yoga especially, they go hand in hand because it's like expressive words, and then we can remember these words. So this is how I was raised. This is how my dad raised me, and then I fell in love with like 90s hip hop and other things like that. So what I wanted to do actually is for those of you who are on the call, in the chat, if you could just write down, just bearing that in mind, write down either your favorite lyric from a song or a memorable saying or something like that that just kind of proves this point that okay, yeah, I remember this, even if it's a silly lyric or if it's a profound saying or something like that. um, just put it in, and as we go along we can share some of these. But just to continue why I love that, like I'm a surgeon, so this word suture, we stitch things. Suture, this comes from the Sanskrit word sutra, and a sutra is like a combination of these words that's got some sort of depth of meaning, and actually we can unpack it just like we unstitch things. So we unstitch the sutra and we take meaning from there. So this is, yeah, I mean, this is why I love poetry. It's just you kind of squeeze something. It's like the juice of a meaning is compact there. So that I'm just, yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm yeah, in love with poetry. We've got a few come through. Um, Prayag's put, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." He just sent me that. So yeah, please keep sending them in. Um, if we just if we just think about poetry overall, it just captures emotion. It tells stories. It's like a medium for expression. It can create social shifts. It can express like certain cultural nuances and even individual perspectives on things, and it can even be like a catalyst for change. And for me, poetry is offered solace at times. I might share some poetry later, which has been almost like therapeutic for me. Um, so yeah, that's why I love it. I mean, I'm sure
You,
you go on, go ahead.
yeah, you. Is it right that you run a poetry group as well?
Yes, yes. So I've always been interested in poetry and always just feel that um, anyone can be a poet. So there's this. I can see some of the people on the call tonight. They're from that poetry group. So I think Gita. If we just step back a second, think Gita has got these circles that people attend nearly every evening, and when they discuss Bhagavad-gita. And from that, we've requested if people want to join like a poetry group, because obviously the Bhagavad-gita is a long poem. So
Hmm.
if people want to then use the wisdom and then create their own poetry, because yoga philosophy is just full of poets, and the Sanskrit word for poet is kavi.
Dovey, yes, yes.
So we've got a group of these Kavis, these up and coming Kavis, and I've requested some of them to recite their poems here. I can see Joe's on here, and hopefully Prayag and Roshni are here as well. So yeah, so
That's
that's what we've done.
amazing. And so would you say you were inspired? Well, has the Bhagavad-gita had a big impact, on your development as a poet growing up? Because it's written quite poetically in many places with the especially some of the descriptions that
Mm,
Krishna gives of his forms
yeah,
and nature.
yeah. I mean, even from the first verse to the last, like it's just like there's so much. Like even the first one, Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. Like Dharma is like Dha means like the base of ourselves, the essence of ourselves. So it's about we're going to find out about our Dharma. Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. So this word Yuyutsu means like the desire to fight, and in this day and age, it's jujitsu. Jujutsu means jujitsu. It's just the same words there. So Sanskrit has got this kind of like echo through the ages, and nearly all the languages have some influence of Sanskrit. When I find these, I just find it fascinating because it comes from back then, like 5,000 years. So yeah, so like that, like the desire to fight, jujutsu, or like then it starts talking about the situation of the soul being embodied, dehinosmin yata dehe. Like there's little verses, little nuggets like this, and when my dad, would help us memorize these. So when we memorize them, and then in times when we need that knowledge, then we can recite that and draw upon that. So that's what I'm just used to. Like I don't know anything different. Is just poetry. We would recite poetry every day. So
So,
it's
so is there like a method, like I think, is it in Shakespeare or English poetry, you have a thing called the iambic pentameter, which
mm,
is like a rhythm, right? Is it a similar thing with when you're reciting Sanskrit or verses from the Bhagavad Gita?
mm,
It has to be in a certain kind of, there's a
yeah,
rhythm and flow to it, right? Because you said
yeah.
you're a great hip hop fan as well, and that's all about the rhythm, isn't it?
Yeah, so like yeah, so if we talk about hip hop for a second, we've got like internal rhyming schemes, external rhyming scheme, and it just draws you in and again helps you memorize it. Yeah, then you have in Sanskrit you've got like shlokas, sutras. You've got slightly long in some have certain rules where there should be 12 syllables in a line, things like this. So there's different um, different verses have got different rules. But even if we forget Sanskrit for a second, you've got like ghazals of like Middle East and South Asia. You've got sonnets, like you were saying, and your haiku in Japan. You've got
Haiku, yes.
haiku. So haiku and sonnets are interesting because they've got a rule to their structure, which is what you're getting at. If you get a rule to your structure, then it squeezes the real estate. So when we're trying to create poetry, we can take some prose, just like our thoughts, and just, whatever we've written, okay, let's say we want to just squeeze that into some poetry. If we use like a haiku or sonnets or something like that and say, right, you've only got this many syllables, or you can only rhyme in this pattern, then you really have to only take the essence of what you really want, and you have to fit it in. Like you don't have that much real estate. And then what happens is you get this really profound form of poetry because it's just maybe one or two lines or maybe 5 or 6 lines, and it just it's got the essence of what you're trying to get at.
Fantastic. So it's quite technical.
Can be technical. I've got Sushma's just sent me one. Woods are lovely, dark and deep. I have miles to go before I sleep. Have promises to keep. Miles to go before I sleep. By Robert Frost. Thank you, Sushma.
Useful.
We've got lots of poets in here today.
Uh, any are there any others that people have put in the chat? Any other favorite lines or?
Yeah, please keep on coming in. We'll read them as we go.
Yeah,
Um,
please do share. I think you could share your favorite poets or just certain lyrics that may even be song lyrics that
yeah,
resonate with
some
you.
lyrics. Yeah, because so from a Sanskrit tradition or a yogic tradition, the people who can influence culture the most are the kavis, the poets,
Poets, yeah.
artists. Yeah, 100% the artists, because it's a soft power. So like if we think about George Harrison, John Lennon, um, off the top of my head, I've got Nas from the 90s hip hop.
He's still going.
Still exactly still going. Some of these people, they've just affected culture and change just because their lyrics just resonate with people. Um, yeah,
I like
one of my favorite ones is Akala. He's a British hip hop
Akala, yes.
artist. For anyone who doesn't know, Akala, Akala is his name. He's a British hip hop artist, and he just speaks so much truth. And one particular one that I love is a track called Thieves Banquet. And the concept for Thieves Banquet is that the devil has asked all the thieves of the world to come and basically see who's the most powerful thief. And then it comes down to these last four. And I won't spoil it for you because the track is so good. So if you look up Thieves Banquet by Akala, have you heard it, Sarge?
I haven't, but I'm a big fan of Akala. I've been meaning to read his book 'cause he's written a book on empire, hasn't he?
Yeah, in fact, I've listened to it. I listened to the whole book because he reads it, so
Yeah, he's a
he
very
reads
deep
it really
thinker,
well.
isn't he?
So yeah, I've listened to that. It's really good.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. I really liked what you
Yeah,
said
yeah,
earlier
yeah,
about how words are a vessel for an idea.
yeah.
And you said when these words combine with beauty,
Yeah.
that's poetry.
For me,
I mean,
that
that's
yeah,
such a beautiful definition. And you spoke about the impressions that are created on our consciousness, the samskara.
yes,
Um, can you tell me a bit more about Sanskrit as a language that helps, its effect at creating impressions? Because I remember we were having a conversation earlier in the week about the language of Sanskrit, and you were telling me about what's so special about Sanskrit comparative to other languages like English or some or which have not been around for as long.
yeah, sure. So Sanskrit has got this. Well, Sanskrit itself is what we describe as teleological or teleological, depends on how you pronounce it. So this word teleological means that the sounds have meaning. Every single sound in the alphabet has a meaning, and then those sounds obviously they form the words. And I'll give you an example. So, for example, the word "boo," spelled BHU, so it's got a little bit of aspiration. "Boo" um, means expansion or to exist or being. So, like Buddhi or Buddha means like to expand your intellect. Yeah, or like Bu is the name of Earth because this is where we can expand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So Sanskrit, if we really understand it, it can really help. So I'll recite as well as Bhagavad-gita. I really like this one poem called the Brahma Samhita. That's what I use a lot on my Instagram, and I'll just say one of those verses, and then I'll explain it. And that it goes, Maya hiyasya jagadanta satani sute Tregunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana Sattvaavalambi Parasattvam Vishuddha Sattvam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So you hear this word sattva 3 times, right? So I'm going to get to it. So the first line is Maya hiyasya jagadanda, right? So anda means egg. So jagat anda means a giant egg, which is the universe, right? So Maya means like illusion. So this giant egg is like illusion, which we've been impregnated into. Maya hiyasya jagadanta satani sute. Tregunyatad. So there's 3 energies of consciousness that basically infiltrate our minds. Tregunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana. And because we're in this situation of this dark egg with these things that can affect our consciousness, we need to look for Sattvavalambi Parasattvam Vishuddha Sattvam. Now, Sattva means real. And so Brahma is saying we need to look for what is real, more real, and most real. Right? So that's the Brahma Samhita, and each verse is like profound.
So profound.
Yeah.
Just
So
that is profound.
yeah, just that one line, like sattva, like sattva vilambi para sattvam vishuddha sattvam. What is real? Look for what's real. Like, for example, we want friendship, but do you want genuine friends? Yes, I want genuine friends. Do you want more genuine friends? Yes. And do you want the most genuine of friends? So it's like there's a scale always spiritually, to these things. So I've got some more coming in. Just as you are, perfect, just as you are. Joe, thank you. Yes. And someone's put, it was all a dream by Biggie Smalls. Yes.
Ah, yes.
So going back to your idea of Sanskrit, I mean, I kind of get a bit carried away and a bit technical here, but I think I will share it. Hope you don't mind.
Please, 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 please share.
So I spoke about boo, but I'll give you another sound, which is D. So like this sound, I'll say da, like dharma, like we have this word karma. So dharma is another word that's very famous. So da means like the base of ourselves. It sounds like that da. We use it in music a lot. So there's another sound which is similar, which is D, and that is the basis of our own self. So D means, the sound means the ability to conceptualize things in our mind. That's what the sound D means. So when we say buddhi, that means to expand the ability to improve the conceptual power of our mind. So I'm going to take you on a little journey now from D to the final word kavi, which is the word for poet, and which is why people say that the kind of evolution of our mind is the kavi, is the poet. So from D, which means our ability to conceptualize things, we get this word divya. So divya means divinity in English. Divya, divinity, right? Light, yeah? So this is our ability to think of things in the mind, divya. That's what makes us divine. But some of those things are abstract and they might not necessarily make sense. But the things that we make sense of from our divinity, from our divya, turns into vidya. And vidya, similar to the word video, is like those things that we can conceptualize as real or rational or reasonable. So this is vidya. So divya has gone to vidya. Now, out of those amazingly knowledgeable, which is what another word for vidya, vidya means knowledge or wisdom. So vidya, when we've got something that's worth talking about, it's called vakya. So vidya turns to vakya. And vakya is the root word for the word vocal, to vocalize something. Okay, so we've got divya, vidya, vakya. And so when we speak things, when we make a story, like these epics like Homer's Odyssey or Mahabharata or Ramayana, these long form stories, that is called a kavya. So vakya turns to kavya. So this is the beauty of Sanskrit, right? So di, divya, vidya, vakya, kavya. And then your stories, if you turn that into poetry, then that kavya turns to kavi. So kavi is the evolution, it's the end point of our consciousness. So this is why I'm so passionate about people writing poetry, because it forces you to think. Like writing is journaling and all that. It forces you to think and just put your thoughts together. But then poetry makes you squeeze the essence of what you're thinking about and then put it into something beautiful, makes it rich. So yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's brilliant. So it's almost like the crystallization and the distilling of your thoughts.
Yes.
So could you take us through what is the quick definition of each of those again? So divya, vidya, vakya, kavya, and kavi.
Yes.
I lost what the first
Yeah, so
one.
D is just the sound, which we've
D is
started.
the sound, okay.
D, yeah, D is like the base of everything what we're going to talk about. So D just literally means the ability to conceptualize things in your mind's eye. Yeah, that's what that means. D means your mind's eye, right? And then Divya means divinity. And our divinity is the ability to think. That's what our divinity is. It's like our consciousness being like the sun, being able to shine onto the moon of the mind, right? And then be able to kind of have ideas, right? So this is divya, and then those things that are reasonable, rational, that makes sense. That's vidya. So that's knowledge. Vidya means knowledge. And then our knowledge, which is worth speaking, is vakya. So that's our words. Vakya, vak, vocal, vocalize. And then kavya are stories. Kavya means stories. And then from stories we get poems, which is kavi. So that's got it all? Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So you've got with the bass sound and then the ability to conceptualize things in your mind's eye. It's almost like a flowchart
Yes.
of knowledge. And then you've got knowledge, and then that knowledge transforms into knowledge which is worth speaking.
Yes.
Which is very important in today's age because we're surrounded by knowledge.
Yes.
But how much of that knowledge is worth speaking? And from that knowledge worth speaking, what stories are the stories that are important, the stories that need to be told?
Yes.
And from those stories, what poems and essence can we derive which is relevant to our day-to-day life? Which is why we're so interested in Sanskrit. You mentioned the Brahma Samhita, but the Bhagavad-gita is like, why do you think the Bhagavad-gita is still so relevant today and poetically? Why do you think it's transcended all of these generations?
I like what you said. You used the word crystallize. So poetry in general crystallizes ideas and thoughts. And so the Bhagavad Gita has crystallized these amazing teachings, and then it's put them in a capsule. So many capsules of these verses, and then this major capsule of the whole Bhagavad Gita. And actually it's stayed relevant because it is relevant. All of these are universal teachings. So again, poetry could be universal, it could be personal, but the things that are most profound are the things that are relevant always. And so it just takes someone to crack open the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, there's people on here probably speaking to the, preach to the choir here. That's why they're probably here, is because they realize that the Bhagavad Gita is relevant. I think that's the answer to your question. It's just so relevant, and because it's been kept in that poetic form, well, it is that poetic form, then it's easily memorized and things like that. It's just like beautiful. Yeah.
Amazing. It's great to realize that, I suppose, that it's the crystallizing of these amazing wisdom and teachings which has been put in the capsule of a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. That transcends borders, languages, cultures.
And I'll just stretch that metaphor even more, as I'm a poet, so I love metaphors. So this crystallizing of ideas, if it just means that if we can just take those crystals and put them into some water and dissolve them and drink it through our ears and mind and heart, then it impacts us, right?
Yes.
It's like, think of this poem or these poets, like in the bhakti tradition, the yoga tradition, these poets have written all these poems for us, like these crystals. We find these crystals, and then we dissolve them, and then we drink them, and then it enriches our life. It nourishes us. It nourishes our hearts and minds. So yeah, just to stretch your metaphor a bit more.
I'd like to try and stretch that metaphor in a different direction, which is like the crystals. Like what we do with Think Gita every week is we try and find a different perspective and a lens to look at the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. So this week it's like through poetry, and it's like when you shine a light through a crystal or a jewel, the light refracts in so many different ways, and it creates this shine and this gleam and this glamour, and that, like, to be able to go and delve into the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita through the lens of poetry is really beautiful, because it just shows that there's so many different ways that you can look at the text. We've had people come on and speak about its psychological relevance or its environmental relevance, but to look at it as just a piece of prose and a poetry which has a deep impactful meaning is
I'll share based on what you're saying. I'll share one time I find myself in these situations. I was in the countryside in India, in this place called Vrindavan, and we were in this little hut, and the kind of father of the house came, and it just happened that he was a poet, and he said this 2-line poem in Hindi, because I said that I like poetry. And he said, Yaha na ponche Ravi, Vaha ponche Kavi. So you can hear these two words, Ravi and Kavi. And it means that place where the sun can't get to, i.e. your heart, the poet can. So where the sun can't get to, the poet can. So I think this is what Bhagavad-gita can do when you unlock the verse. It just gets to your heart. There's a change, there's a transformation that happens because it resonates in a certain way. So that's, yeah, I think that's right.
Thank you for sharing that story, that anecdote. It's really, really beautiful. Another thing I'd like you to touch on and share is like, if you haven't seen Balaram's Instagram page, I think we put a link out in the chat. But I think the way you found a really meaningful way to connect with poetry and spirituality with your daughter, which I think is so amazing. And how did you discover that with your daughter? Like, were you playing around one day in the car, or like, how did that come about?
Okay, so first of all, my dad was a teacher. He's passed away now, but he was a teacher, and he always said you got to give children rich experiences. So that's the thing. So beauty is a rich experience. So what happened is during lockdown, I signed both my kids up to this online kind of like Sanskrit poetry class because there was nothing else to do. It was either that or Disney Channel. So they had to memorize the Brahma Samhita. So my mum made me memorize the Brahma Samhita, and it was kind of like, kind of parenting back then. God bless my mum. Sorry, mum. It was a bit more strict, should we say? And I just knew that my kids wouldn't respond the way we probably would back in their 80s and 90s. So I was like, I'm going to need to do this in a sweeter way. So we used like hip hop tracks. Basically, what I've done, got hip hop instrumentals and drill and grime instrumentals, and recited the Brahma Samhita. So the traditionalists probably won't like it, but everyone else likes it. And it's kind of like yeah, you liked it, Saj?
I loved it. Like, you've got ancient wisdom. The Brahma Samhita is how old? Just for context, it's like what,
It's
thousands?
actually apparently it's timeless. So it's definitely
Spoken at the
2000.
conception of the universe, right?
But the idea is that Brahma, who is actually known as the Adi Kavi, which means the first poet, he heard Krishna's flute in his ear, and upon hearing Krishna's flute, he just burst into poetry. That's how the story goes, and that bursting of poetry is the Brahma Samhita.
Wow. And you've taken the lyrics from this ancient text. How many verses is it? Because you had to memorize the whole thing.
Yeah, like it's a good like 50 something. I haven't memorized. You know what? My wife and my son are better than me and my daughter. They've
Wow.
actually memorized it all. And I've
You
like,
found a meaningful way to connect this wisdom with the younger generation, with your children, which I think is so inspiring.
yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I just did it. I just thought, let's do it. So I just did it. I thought, let me put it on my Instagram. And then my phone just kept going off. I had to turn off the notifications because it got 15,000 views and like about 400, 500 likes or whatever. And I thought, okay, that's the first verse. Let's keep going. So then so every week then we would just like find a track and and then we did it to like some really classic tracks, like some of the Mobb Deep tracks, some of the Nas tracks, and then we did it to Stormzy. So we've done it to like all these kind of high level hip hop and grime tracks, and just put the Brahma Samhita over them, and people love
You've
it.
made, yeah, it's just stunning. Like, you've made like something which, as a child, I remember my mum teaching me, and I had to learn and recite the Hanuman Chalisa, which is a Hanuman prayer that a lot of people, I guess, of my generation have had to learn. Hanuman Chalisa and other Sanskrit prayers, and we'd have to go to Gujarati classes and things. But you found like a really cool way to connect ancient wisdom with well, it's a good recipe. It's a recipe for success. Like,
Well, I encourage everyone to do it. Like I did it with the hope that any other parent um, would do it as well. Like just do it. Just do some poetry. Do the same thing. Just do the Brahma
have
Samhita.
you have
Even
you
if you
got the
don't do the
video?
Brahma Samhita, that thing that you said at the beginning of the podcast, that's actually from the Brahma Samhita. The actual lyric is, every word is a song, every step is a dance, and every day is a festival. That's what
Okay.
Brahma. That's what Lord Brahma says towards the end. He said the spiritual atmosphere is like that, where words turn into songs, and steps turn into a dance, and the days just are festivals.
I'm going to see if I can just share my screen for a minute because I'd love. I didn't plan this, but I'd love just for context for people to see what it is that you've created, because I think it's amazing. So I'm just going to just give it a go. Can everyone see this? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, yeah,
You can. Okay, perfect. So shall I share this one here, this Brahma Samhita one?
yeah. Go for that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go to that. Okay, we'll put the volume up. Okay, here we go.
Every day you could be blessed if you just give it a chance. Every day you look out, every step of the time, every day you could give it a chance.
So good.
Thanks, man.
So
Thank you.
good.
If we could start
Honest.
a movement, guys, if you're happy with that, then just put it on your story, man. Just put every word is a song, every step is a dance, every day could be blessed if you give it a chance. And just tag me, and I will share it everywhere because it's like a message that is fun, it's creative, but it's so serious as well. Like spirituality is supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be joyously performed,
Yeah,
which is what the Bhagavad-gita says.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Thank
no.
you for that. That really brightened my day, actually. So where can we learn to do spoken word and poetry like this? Do you run any workshops? Have you got any future events?
Yeah, so I've got some budding volunteers, and so I want you guys to get ready. That whoever's going to recite their poem. So we've got what we did is we think Gita obviously studies the Bhagavad Gita, but then Keshav Maharaj wanted people to write, and then naturally, like I said, from writing comes poetry and artwork. So we created this little poetry WhatsApp group, and if you're not in it, then just get in contact and join it. And I just set little challenges. Okay, let's talk about write a poem about your spiritual teachers, or write a poem about seeing beauty in the small things, or something like that. Who I'll request first is Roshni. If Roshni could just like raise her hand, and then what Roshni's done is quite amazing. If those of you who know Keshav Maharaj's acronym book, there you go. So if someone could just spotlight Roshni as well. So what Roshni? Hey Roshni, okay, and you can unmute as well.
Hello.
What Roshni's done is there are these acronyms that Keshav Maharaj has created for every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and then Roshni has beautifully put those in that order into a poem. So if you memorize that poem, you will memorize the acronyms, and then if you know the acronyms, you essentially know every single theme of the whole Bhagavad Gita. So for those of you who know the Roshni, before you recite it, could you just say the words of the acronym? If you just do that first, please. Welcome, by the way, Roshni.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, so the acronyms are doubt, Gita, tree, ears, step, easy, had, dad, king, sea, roop, God, wise, trap, home, dog, face, and smile.
Excellent. This is brilliant. So yeah, are you happy to recite your poem? Take your time. No problem.
So I was in doubt with a sense of strife, but when I found the Gita, I began to learn about the tree of life. My ears got to listen to wisdom that had traveled through years. I took a small step, which gradually made it easy to listen to Krishna's soliloquy. Knowledge filled my head, which I realized now was buried in ignorance. We could even say dead. My spirit came alive like a king. Now I see the roop of God and sing. This wise moment arrived when I saw my soul was in a trap. Realizing this material world is not home, I decided to jump the gap. Like a dog recognizing its true master, I moved faster to see his graceful face and transcendental smile. Now I try to break through the crest of this material dome, making a necessary journey to my supreme spiritual home.
Wow, that's nice. Sarge, what do you think?
So beautiful. So beautiful. It encapsulates the essence of the acronym so wonderfully. That's so lovely, Roshni. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I love that you say Krishna's soliloquy, because it's like I've never heard
Yeah.
Bhagavad-gita being described as Krishna's soliloquies. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. You got some round of applause coming from Lisa Murray and Roma.
Really wonderful.
Everyone's happy with that one. Thank you. So yeah, I'll invite if Prayag is available, and then so yeah, this is what we're doing, Sarge. We've got a little poetry group, and we're just squeezing out some poetry.
I like it. I want to sign up. I want to join.
Yeah, please join, and then yeah, Prayag, are you there? You just raise your hand. Oh yes, are you driving still?
I am stopped, so I'm still in the car, but yeah.
Excellent. What was your poem about again, please?
So it's about change and how we can find connection in the changes that life throws at us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for this exclusive recital from your car. So just take your time and recite it for us. Thank you.
Sure. In the dance of life, changes unfold, a tale untold, a story to be retold. Embrace the shift, let stagnant waters flow, break free from routine, let new currents grow. Shed the cloak of comfort, step into the unknown, where challenges thrive and seeds are sown. For in the crucible of change, strength is found. Awaken from slumber, hear destiny's sound. Cast away the shadows, let courage be your guide. In transformation's dance, find purpose deep inside. Rise from the echoes of a mundane refrain, carve a symphony of purpose, break the chains. For life's true rhythm is not in the mere sway, but in the bold steps you take each new day. In the dance of change, find your soul's call, embrace the journey, let your purpose enthrall.
Wow, thank you, man. Sarge,
So amazing, Prayag.
Thanks, guys.
cheers,
So
man.
wonderful. What some of the words you like the images that are evoked from the language you use, like the symphony of change and the dance. So wonderful.
And the crucible, yeah. Excellent. You're a wordsmith.
Definitely.
Yeah, cool. I expect more now, Prayag. That's it. I've got you now. You're my fellow poet. Thank you so much for your commitment as well, logging on like this.
No, anytime.
Cool. So we have Joe as well, our last person to commit to this evening. Joe, can you raise your hand or so we can spotlight? Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Hello.
Hello, you're right. So actually, Joe's pretty prolific. She's written quite a few, and I didn't know which one to choose. So I left it to Joe to choose which one, because I chose a few and said, just do one of these. So do you need to explain it first? You're going to say it and then talk after?
I can do both. This came from the group, and it was the subject was on new beginnings and transitions. So this is what I came up with. So I called it To Live, There Must Be Death. Where moments ago, the eternal field of my inner being was green and lush, pure and untainted as far as the eye could see, suddenly it became engulfed in the darkness of storm clouds. Armies of doubt and battalions of confusion appeared, forcing upon my nature a barrage of anxiety, as each weapon fired a new question, yet more of who I am became unknown, unknowable amidst this affray. And I stumbled, lost, blinded for a time, until eventually this new war ceased fire from all sides, reaching its inevitable demise. Winds blew through to reveal blue sky, the sun cleansing my sight, and from the death of what was emerged new ideas, now blossoming amongst the life, forming in this expansion, having endured.
Wow.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Joe. That's so lovely.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal and external rhyming in it. I've read it a few times. It's so nice. It flows so well.
And the journey of like death being the kind of being the step to creation of new life. It's so lovely.
It's like the new transition for this was like the ego death. That was the angle. So to really live with the ego must, some say integrate, some say ego death, but that's the internal battle that was representing.
It's almost like, maybe you could even say like the unreal ego, like the false ego, the identity that we're not, and then the identity that we really are. It's like I can feel that tussle and that rebirth, something that I need to go through myself. So yeah, I definitely resonate with that, Joe.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'm expecting more from you as well.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You'll be there. I know you will. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
You've got a
So,
good
yeah,
group of poet. This is just a handful of some of your poets as well.
Yeah. These are the coveys of the future. Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy to, say that we want to do a poetry recital evening. You mentioned at the beginning on the 28th of this month.
That's right, 28th of this month. Yeah, we're going to have some opportunities for poetry recital and just like to create a creative space for like any kind of creative expression. If anyone wants to sing, say a few words, speak a poet, do a monologue.
Yeah, so that's it's in London. It's an in-person event. So please, if people can come and they want to recite some poetry, then just get in contact with us. It's on the 28th, and it's at Neil's Yard, I believe. Is that right?
That's right. It's Neil's Yard in Covent Garden. We had an in-person meetup last Thursday, so thank you to those who attended. Keshav Swami was present for that, and we had kirtan and food, and it was a really lovely occasion. So this would be a really nice way to just mark the end of the year and have a kind of collective creative celebration. And I'm really hoping that these workshops that you run with your group, is it online or are they in person?
So it's pretty just chilled out. It's like we're on a WhatsApp group, and I might set a challenge like on a Monday, and then by the next Monday a few poems will come through. And what we're actually doing is we're collecting those poems. So hopefully by the end of a year or so, we'll have like a book that then can, be, published, or at least digitally, if not, physically.
So how can we join you? Is there a link, or will you?
Yeah. So Raj. So okay, fine. So if anyone, you can just message me on Instagram or the Think Gita Instagram page, and just say you want to join the WhatsApp group for the poetry, and it's pretty easy. You either just get a link and you'll just join that. So yeah, if you just put your hand up on here if you want to join it, and I'll just make a little note and just make sure. Yeah, that's you. Okay, fine. I'll send you the link like, as soon as we jump off this call. But I think a few people are on it, because what it is, if you're part of the Think Gita community WhatsApp group, it's there underneath it, the poetry. So
Great.
people are joining it. So I would
Great.
encourage anyone to join in. No problem.
Great. So there'll be an opportunity to meet you, and then also for a poetry recital on the 28th of December.
Yeah, so 20th of December, it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be a really nice event where it's open mic, so recite some poetry, hopefully sing some songs, and we're planning on having some kirtan yoga at the end and some food. So that'll be great. It's in between Christmas and New Year's. It's kind of that in-between period where, oh, are we going to do anything? I don't know. Are we going to do anything? And then, okay, there's this thing. Should we go to it? Yes, we'll go to it. Sounds fun.
And thank you so much for today. Like, I feel like you've really opened my mind to the potential of poetry, not just as something which I consume, but also as a way to like meaningfully connect with spiritual practice, the essence of the Bhagavad-gita, the importance and power of mantra as well. I feel like I've learned a lot today. So I hope Sanskrit you mentioned is a teleological, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the sounds have got meaning.
So the sounds have meaning, yes.
Yeah. What I can do, I can just recite one before we log off.
Please, that would be so wonderful. It'd be such a nice way to close out.
It's one that hopefully I've still got in the memory banks, but it's called Reflection to My Soul. So I'll just recite one and then we can log off for the evening. Cool. So hopefully this inspires you too, like Saj is inspired, and I'm going to hold him to account now. I want some poems from Saj now on his realizations. Hopefully this inspires you to think about things, think about life, write some things down, and then the group is really open. So, even if it's the first time you're writing some poem, just write it and we can add a few metaphors or tighten up the poetry. Just be open. It's a non-judgmental space. So along those lines, I will recite Reflections to My Soul. Forever I search for that reflection to my soul. What's my role, my life's goal? Am I born to just die, maybe get a little old? I question my life's next section, which direction to turn. I contemplate this and burn a stick of incense to make sense of nonsense in this dense material maze. When nights they fight with days, it never ceases to amaze me how this world keeps us crazy, playing chase the ace, picking up the pace and going face to face, when we should be meditating on divine grace. I should be meditating on divine grace. Maybe I need to find some sacred space. Now I choose to recite cosmic mantras in the chambers of the temple, so my mind coincides with the mental state of sages from previous ages. Now I rock Sanskrit verses from the old pages, like Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadam, Ananta Rupam, Adyam Purana Purushamanava Yovanamcha, Vede Sudhurlabhamadhurlabhamatma Bhakto, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Maybe it won't be hazy when I find that reflection to my soul. There you go. Thank you.
Wow, the cadence, the rhythm, the flow. And it's so much better than listening to like hip hop or anything, because it has such deep, profound meaning. Like I didn't understand the Sanskrit, but I could feel it. I could feel the power of the words and that's not even in person, that's just over Zoom, over these waves. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I thank you for having me on here. I hope to come on soon again, and hope to see you in person on the 28th, and hope to hear some more poetry. Link with us on Think Gita on Instagram, and like Saja said, ink stains for your brain is what I am on Instagram. So yeah, cool. Appreciate you, Saj, for your time and efforts as well.
No, thank you, Balaram. It's been such a pleasure. Like one of my favorite Gita experiences today. So thank you for that, and thank you for being so open. Thank you to the guests who shared their poetry, Joe, Roshni, Prayag. Thank you so much. Really, really wonderful thoughts. I'm just feeling super inspired. So I'm between now and the 28th of December. I'm gonna get the creative juices flowing, I'm sure. If you want to sign up, please get in touch with us. We'll hope to see you at Neil's Yard on the 28th. I think it's at 7 o'clock in Covent Garden. Before then, we'll have our usual wisdom talks on Zoom. We really love sharing this community with you and sharing these experiences. So if you have any ideas of subjects that you'd like to cover, new and fresh perspectives, then please do share them with us. Stay in touch with us on Think Gita on Instagram, and we look forward to seeing you in person on the 28th of December. But until then, thank you for joining. Thanks for taking your time out this evening. Thank you to Balaram for such an inspiring and wonderful evening of poetry, and thank you to everyone who came on to share. And see you next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Really good.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.